Okay, what's up? Excuse me. Okay, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Lifeline number 12 with Antonio Fletcher. This is going to be destroying pro abortion arguments because I feel like it. Yeah, that's going to come off wrong to a lot of people, but I really don't care. I just feel like this um, tearing apart pro abortion arguments because isn't a single argument you could use to justify killing an unborn. You just can't do it. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you say. You can't do it. Um, yeah, and it's just a lot of people just been just brainwashed by this society to think that abortion is a woman's choice. It's not. I don't care who you are, what you say. No person has the right to intentionally kill another human being for their own personal convenience. We all have the right not to be killed unless we do something which violates that right, like uh, trespass against another person, like by hitting them in the face or something like that. But there is no argument out there which can justify abortion. And I'm going to put a challenge out there for any pro-choicer who thinks they can prove me wrong to come in here and we'll have a hangout about it. But tonight, I just feel like destroying some pro-abortion arguments, and we'll see if we can get any people in here to talk about this tonight. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the link out in the chat, and we'll go from there. So let's see here. Okay, I gotta address something here real quick. People keep talking about like they looked at my last discussion I had with Skylar talking about I'm just upset with the mechanism, not the right way to abort. See, I don't know why do I have to explain this. I feel like I gotta pull out puppets to explain this to people. Um, it's not about the mechanism. Look here, if you have a terminal cancer patient, check this out. Follow what I'm saying very carefully. Because, like I just said, I might have to get out puppets to explain this to people. But if you have a terminal cancer patient in which the doctor said you're going to die, there's nothing we can do for you. There's a difference between taking a knife or gun, chopping that person up, or putting a bullet in their head and killing them that way and saying, we can't do anything for you. We're going to take your life right now. There's a difference between that because you could say, well, that person's going to die. Either way, the result is the same. Either you intentionally take their life with a knife or gun, or you just wait for the disease to take its course and they die. Either way, the result is the same. Just because the result is death doesn't mean that how we got to that result is the same. There's a reason. Hold on a second, I'm getting a call. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. But anyway, as I was saying, um, everybody knows that just because you have a terminal cancer patient who's gonna die more or less, they say we can't do anything for this person. It doesn't mean the result is the same. Well, yeah, the result of death is the same, but the means is to getting there is not the same. Everybody knows that you don't just put a bullet or cut the cancer patient up to death just because they're going to die, just because there's nothing you can do for them. You let the disease take its course, and you respect their life in that way. You are showing dignity towards their life in that way. You aren't taking it into your own hands to take their life from them. That's what the difference is. That's why it's so different. And when people sit up here and say this nonsense to where you just don't like the mechanism, well, the means to an end matter, whether you want to admit that or not. The means to an end matter. You can have somebody that's terminal, and the means to the end matter. You don't decide to do things to put the situation into your hands to where you think you have the right to actively take their lives because you looking at the situation and saying, well, I'm going to decide to take their life in my own hands. No, you don't have the right to do that. Absolutely not. That's the reason why I say there's a difference between deliberate killing and simply performing a procedure to save a woman's life, which can result in the passive death of the individual. You might not be able to do anything for that child. The child may not be viable. You may not be able to help that child at all. But that doesn't mean that if the child dies, it's the same that if you just to say, you know what, I'm going to take the surgical instrument and chop this kid up in the womb. That's quite a bit different. And people in the medical field understand that. You have doctors in the medical field that see the clear difference. It would not define such a situation in any case as an abortion. So I really can't say it any clearer or make it any simpler. So ain't nothing I'm gonna say that's gonna make it any more simpler than what I just said it. So it's some dude in the chat said I was fine with having the baby aborted via C-section. Um, Here's the issue here. I have no problem with termination being done. Way too often, pro-aborts confuse termination with intentional killing and abortion. Now, if you define abortion as simply termination, then fine. Yes, that would technically be an abortion if you're going to define abortion as simply termination. But you can't equate typical termination of pregnancy with outright intentional killing. There's a clear difference. Because if you look at abortion termination, how is that done? Abortion termination by intentional killing, or abortion termination by C-section. There's a difference. One is an intentional killing, the other one is extraction from the womb. You may not be able to do anything for that child. That child may very well die, but that doesn't mean that determination and the method of abort, which means to stop something, is the same thing. We gotta understand what we mean by abort. Do we mean to stop something, to terminate something? How are we stopping or terminating that something? That is the key issue. Way too often, pro-aborts equivocate abortion in every context as if they're all the same. Spontaneous abortion is a miscarriage. Yes, in the medical field, they do define a spontaneous abortion as a miscarriage because technically pregnancy is terminated, but just through a means by which was not caused by the human being. It happened naturally. So there are different forms of termination that can happen, but that don't mean all the means of termination are the same. You can't sit up here and say the deliberate killing termination abortion is the same as something like a miscarriage termination abortion. There's really no way I can make that any clearer. Let's see who we have here. We have Jackson. What's up,
Hello, I
man?
just came. Nothing much. I'm just coming in to see what you're saying and things like that because I always enjoy these things. So thank you for having me and thank you for streaming. That's all I want to say, and I will let you continue.
Yeah, I'm just trying to explain to these people the difference between procedures in which you're saving a mother's life as opposed to deliberate killing. What they do is they say, well, abortion is medically defined as the termination of pregnancy. Well, I'll be like, well, yeah, well, so what? That doesn't mean that the way pregnancy is terminated is the same thing. Like you have a number of different ways pregnancy can technically be terminated, either through miscarriage, through inducing early pregnancy, through a C-section. Yes, these are all technically defined under termination, but that don't mean that the means to those terminations are the same. Like a woman can have a miscarriage. That can happen. There's just times where there's nothing you can do about that, but that's definitely not the same as a woman going up into an abortion clinic and hiring an abortionist to deliberately kill her baby and terminate her pregnancy that way. So,
Oh, yeah. It's abortion is with intent, not an accident, not like not an accident. It's with intent. You want to have the terminate.
right, when you go up into in a clinic and have it done that way, yeah, that's deliberate. You can't get around that. And they try to equivocate like a procedure that's meant to save a mother's life. They try to equivocate that with a woman going up into a clinic and just killing her baby because she doesn't want to be pregnant. It's you can't do it. It's an equivocation fallacy to say abortion is the termination of pregnancy, and they equate all forms of termination as if they're no different from one another. They clearly are different. Now you can call if you want to play some semantic game, you could say, well, you've terminated somebody's life by pulling a bullet in their head. Yes, technically, if you want to argue that point, but come on, everyone knows you murdered that person. You can technically try to define it as termination all you want to. You murdered that person. That's not the same thing as their life was terminated by a disease or something.
Yeah, and Antonio, I have to go real quick. I'll come and join it in like 5 minutes, okay?
Oh, okay.
All right. Be right back.
Yep. But I can't make the explanation any simpler. Now, if you think you can justify abortion and let's say, I don't know, a woman just doesn't want to be pregnant because she conceived in consensual sex at a time she was not ready to, then, excuse me, sorry about that. I'm sipping a latte while I'm talking about this. But anyway, if you think you can justify abortion just typically and just in any circumstance because you think a woman has the right to do so, then That's what I'm interested in seeing um, a pro-abort back up. That's what I'm interested in hearing about because the thing is, if you can make a case for that, then it would not really matter the semantics of the whole issue. Abortion could be justified for any reason, whether it be for life threatening cases or for she just don't want to be pregnant right now. That's the case I'm wanting to hear. Um, but the problem is, pro boards know they can't make a case for those instances outside of life threatening circumstances because um, they know that what they're doing, what a woman is doing, is wrong. They know they can't justify killing a baby. They know they can't do it. Whether they try to say it's not a baby, whether they try to say it's a clump of cells, it doesn't matter what they try to say. They know they can't back it up. They know they can't argue with it. So the reason why they want to constantly focus on the life-saving or life-threatening issue in pregnancy is because they want to keep it zoned on that particular part. And if they keep it zoned on that particular part, they can keep the discussion away from what they know is a lot harder to justify. They think it's easier to justify deliberate killing in a life-threatening circumstance. They think it's easier to justify deliberate killing in cases of rape. But we really look at the facts. When we look at people who've worked in those fields, like there was an international symposium some years ago of doctors who met in Dublin, Ireland, and these people with extensive backgrounds and medical expertise came together at the symposium and they said that abortion is never needed to save a woman's life. And yeah, we understand that the medical journals and the medical text define abortion as the termination of pregnancy. We understand that. But here's the thing, it's not always simply about certain things being defined, but about the actual situations. Because if the medical professionals know that abortion is defined as the termination of pregnancy, but at the same time they saying, well, saving a woman's life in a life-threatening case is not defined as an abortion, then clearly they must see it as, okay, we understand this is medically defined. And for those who don't work in the field, they may define it as an abortion, but for those who do work in the field, they saying that no, although we are terminating pregnancy, this cannot be classified as an abortion, at least in the context of deliberate killing. It can't be classified as an abortion. And that's what they're talking about. If you just want to say that it's just classified as an abortion in the sense of the root word abort, to stop something, then yeah, you can call that an abortion. But again, that's just a term. That's not what's actually going on. You can term it whatever you want. I don't care. You can call it what you want. But there's a difference between the terms and the actual situations. If the actual situation is stating that they don't need to deliberately kill this child to save a woman's life, then it doesn't matter what term you put on it. It doesn't matter if you put abortion. It doesn't matter whether you put vomit. It doesn't matter whether you put a 1080p television screen term on it. It doesn't matter what term you use. What's actually happening in reality as opposed to the term they put on it is two different things. They just put certain terms on certain things to make it easy, to make it easier to categorize things, to make it in the way that we communicate. That's the only reason why they put terms on things. It's just for the sake of communication. But you can semantically put whatever term or word you want. But at the end of the day, the actual situation is not defined by the label that's put on it. So it's really just a pointless argument that pro-abortionists attempt to make. It's just a way to obfuscate the discussion to really not focus on the core meat and potatoes of the issue. When we talk about abortion, it goes back to the core question: is it okay to deliberately take the life of the unborn simply because it inconveniences you? That's the question that we are investigating here. That's the most important part of the subject. I don't understand why. Well, I do understand why, but at the same time, it's like it just makes me say to myself, I don't understand why they keep putting it back to this life-threatening case. Like that's their go-to point. It's just like they know in the back of their mind that they have a much tougher task to justify abortion, saying, well, a woman isn't ready to be pregnant now. She had sex with her boyfriend and she got pregnant at the time she wasn't ready, despite the fact that she used birth control. Her birth control failed and she got pregnant. So she doesn't want to be pregnant right now. So she wants to resolve that by getting an abortion. I'm still waiting for pro-abortionists to justify abortion on those lines. And they just haven't done it. And will they ever do it? Or will they be able to do it? I don't think so. In all the discussions I've had, every last single pro-abort has fell short. They can't argue abortion. They can't justify abortion no matter what they say. It all comes back down to personal responsibility. We all have a right not to be killed unjustly. We all have a right to have our lives respected and for our lives not to be taken unjustly. You can say that the position is the unborn should have a right to life. That's one way to look at it. But what we really are saying is the unborn has a right not to be killed unjustly. And well, they will say, well, how do you define what's unjust? Well, the same way we would define killing born humans unjustly as such. I can't just go up to a random stranger and put a bullet in their head. No, absolutely not. That is just unjust killing. And then they want to give these points about autonomy and about a clump of cells and they ain't got a right to another person's body and all this other stuff. None of these sorts of reasons will we ever use to justify deliberate killing and or child abandonment. A lot of pro-aborts like to also straw man the argument and saying, well, if you're trying to suggest that deliberate killing is wrong, then are you saying that it's okay for a woman to induce early birth as long as she don't deliberately kill the child? Like, no, that's not what I'm saying. The abortion procedure is a deliberate killing. We're not talking about uh, stuff as inducing early delivery. You know, like in the case where a mother is her life is in danger. We're not sitting up there saying that her inducing early delivery would be okay because she would not necessarily have to deliberately kill the child. We're not making that argument. That's just like saying because I would be against the deliberate killing of a child who's a terminal cancer patient, that I would be also for putting that child into the middle of the desert to just die because I'm not deliberately killing that child, but because I'm against deliberately killing that child, it must mean I'm for putting that child into the middle of the desert to just die eventually. Like, no, there is no connection. We all know that whether you deliberately killed a child or whether you are doing something purposely to put that child into a situation to where um, they chances are less to survive, you did things to endanger the well-being of that child. So the pro-life position can more clearly also be looked at as um, you have a right. And the child has a right to their well-being. They have a right to have their well-being respected. If you do things like deliberately induce pregnancy to endanger the life of that child, you knew you doing something to endanger that child's well-being. If you have a born child and again you just drop the kid off in the middle of nowhere, you don't have to deliberately kill that kid, but you are still doing things to endanger the well-being of that child. Either way you put that, you are endangering the well-being of that child. So it's not just about deliberate killing, but it's also about things you do to deliberately endanger the well-being. You can endanger that well-being of that child by deliberate killing, or you can endanger the well-being of that child by doing things to which you know is going to lessen that child's chances of survival. So when pro-aborts get wrapped up in pro-lifers attacking the deliberate killing argument, and then they make this fallacious extrapolation to non-deliberate termination of pregnancy, they're just attacking a straw man. So that's that's excuse me, that is how that is explained. But this is the lifeline number 12, destroying pro-abortion arguments simply because I feel like it. I'm still waiting for a pro-choice or pro, or I don't really care what label they want to use. It's really all the same to me. At the end of the day, I'm just waiting for them to make a general argument that, well, if a woman is pregnant at a time she's not ready to be, she should be able to just kill her baby, to kill the unborn. They could call it clump of cells. They can even admit that it's a baby and still think she has the right to get an abortion. It doesn't really matter to me what semantics they try to play. It gets to the point to where you've heard all these arguments and you see the egregious fallacies in every last single one of them, and you're just like, man, you really can't back this up. You really can't justify this sickness. I've had even I've had talks with many pro aborts over many years, and even when they say that a woman has a right to kill the unborn, they would even admit that they struggle with it. Many pro-choicers over the years have told me, admitted to me that they struggle with it, even though they think a woman should have a right to do it. That's why I don't understand. They struggle with it. It's something that triggers in their brain, which they know it's wrong, and they just can't bring themselves to just do the right thing and say, you know what, she shouldn't have a right to kill her child, her offspring, or whatever they wanted to define the unborn as. They admit their struggle with it. So it's something in their conscience that's bothering them and where they know it's wrong and they just don't want to take that next step. It's just this endless sort of uh, compromise. They can't bring themselves to just doing the right thing, standing up for the right thing. They want to compromise with the women and other people to make themselves look good. Well, like I'm not personally for this, but I'm not gonna say she don't have a right to do that. They try to compromise just so they won't ruffle feathers, just so they won't offend people. But they know in their minds and in their hearts it's wrong. They know it. Hold on just a sec, people. I'm getting another call. Hold on just a moment. Okay, I'm back. It doesn't look like I'm gonna get any people come in here to really discuss this issue today. So, as much as I hate to close this hangout prematurely, I'm not gonna like waste my time waiting for people to come in here. I got other things I could be doing, so I'm just gonna end this hangout right now. Maybe in the 13th installment, we'll get more people coming in. Well, for those who were watching, I just want to appreciate you watching and have a good evening. Take care. God bless.